Hey, we're live. So this is Emmanuel Vion. I'm the music director of TDO, as you probably know. And we are going to have a conversation with tenor Matthew Polenzani. I see Matthew just in now. I'm going to make him in, go live. Polenzani, ta-da-da-da. And he's going to appear any second. I'm really excited about this one. Hey, Matthew. Oh, you're slightly upside down?
Oh, you have to have it straight up and down?
It's better like this. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you got rid of the hat. You had a hat a few minutes ago.
It was still what qualifies as early morning in my house. I mean, no, it was lunchtime, but there'd been much things happening. I hadn't gotten to
Okay.
like get cleaned up or anything yet. So what are you gonna do?
So the thing that's wonderful about this confinement and all these conversations online is that you can have conversations that you never had with people.
Sure.
One of the things that is amazing to me is that we work twice on big productions, and we probably have done galas. We met together in the same opera houses, but we never really socialize much, which is strange. So that's a good occasion to socialize and to know you a little better.
Yeah, for sure.
So
hang on, keep talking. I'm gonna fix my light in here. Okay, keep talking. I'm listening.
And I have a feedback with the sound too. So Matthew and I worked together in Covent Garden, I think, and in Chicago at the Lyric. We did Hoffman together at the Lyric, and we did Romeo. No, it was Manon in Covent Garden.
Yes, man.
Both incredible experiences for me on a musical level. Great production, great.
We're missing something else too, Emmanuel, aren't we? Did we do some Mozart together one time, maybe?
Could
maybe.
Be.
Sorry. Okay.
That's the thing. Yeah. You know, now when I start rehearsal with a group of singers, and I just sometimes I say, forgive me, I'm getting old. Have we worked together before?
Oh, no, it's okay. We have definitely earned that right.
Yes.
We've been around long enough for that. I had a great conversation actually with a bass baritone named Maurizio Muraro. Have you worked with him?
Yes.
Sure. So
Goya of Melody with Domingo together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some years ago we were doing Così at the Met, and I was lamenting the fact that like more and more often these days I'm the oldest in the cast. It happens most of the time now, and and I was kind of not upset but quasi complaining. And Maurizio said to me, "Listen, Matthew, let me ask you, who was your debut with? Like in a big theater, who was your debut with?" So my debut at a big theater was at Lyric Opera Chicago when I was a young artist in 1995. It was Simone Boccanegra. I was singing the captain, and Kiri Takano was in the cast, Robert Lloyd, Michael Sylvester. I mean, it was a great cast, And then he said, and what about like, so that was a very early generation, right? I mean, like a generation who I really barely sang with. I did get to sing with Bob Lloyd quite a few times, but basses are a different breed, right? Because
I actually worked with Jerome Hines and Robert Lloyd. I'm not sure you can top that.
Oh no, for sure I can't top Jerome Hines. Absolutely not.
That's how old I am.
No, that's pretty awesome though.
I know.
So then he said to me, so listen, and like of the generation that came after, who did you work with? And of course, I worked with Renee Fleming and Debbie Voigt and Susie Graham and everybody from that group. And then I also worked with like Anya, and who's more in my group, and Joyce, and all these guys. And then I work with this group that's coming behind me, like Eileen Perez and Susanna Phillips, and like this. And then there's another group behind them, like Nadine Sierra, so like I've worked with like 4 generations of singers. And he said, you should really be looking at it like that. And something, he's right. It's a much better way of looking at it rather than just lamenting the fact that I'm older than most everybody I'm working with.
Right, but you will notice that you remember all the cast of your debut in any major houses. You don't remember with whom you're working now. You
Oh
know,
no, it's
that's
true.
where you don't fool
It's really
yourself.
true.
So it's
It's
not only
true.
that your brain is full, is that it's not retaining the same way, which is
Yes,
great
absolutely.
when you have, you know, the scores I have learned when I was younger and that I had time to learn. They are there right away.
A
And the new
million
scores,
percent.
I can learn the score much faster now, but I
Yep,
forget it much faster too. And is
absolutely.
that for you too?
Yep, 1,000,000%. If I had to step on the stage and sing Tamino today or Traviata today, even with Tamino's dialogue, I would need a little bit of time just to study the dialogue to
Mm,
make sure I understood where everything was.
mm,
But I mean, like, if you called me at 12:30 and said we need you at 7:30, no problem. I mean, there's a
yeah,
few others like that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for instance, I sang Louisa Miller just about 2 years ago, and I haven't sung anything. I could still give you the aria, but that's probably it. You know,
Right,
I
right, right.
mean, I'm
So,
sure it'll
so,
come back quickly, but even
right,
so,
right.
I don't know
So,
why that is.
right. So you said you were busy the whole morning, and so how do you leave these crazy times? I mean, you are confined. You are staying in one home. You are with the whole family. What's the story?
Well, we're lucky because we live outside of New York City.
Oh,
We have a yard. We have a place to play. We have our bikes. We can ride our bikes. We can go for walks. And my wife and I've been running. I mean, we brought the kids running a few times, so they're less interested in keeping going. After like 2 miles is about the max they can go. So, but I mean, so we have that, and also, I mean, of course, we're teaching.
you're
So we're
teaching
trying
your
to help
kids?
our kids. Well,
Yeah,
we're teaching the kids, which is brought
insane.
me to a whole new level of appreciation for everything that the teachers are doing. Um, so yeah, I mean, our days are busy. Actually, oddly, the weekends are harder now because their kids are very used to a structure at home, and on weekends we don't have that same structure. And we're starting to think like we need to start structuring the weekend days too. We did just color our Easter eggs. So for those of you celebrating Easter, by the way, happy Easter.
Happy Easter,
And so anyway,
Passover,
and that was nice. But yeah, what
right?
about you? Where are you?
Well, so I am in California. I'm actually in Malibu, and uh,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's the nice part. I mean, here is the ocean. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah,
Wow, that's
but
great.
I kind of earned it in the sense that we lost our home in the California big fires in November 2000. Yes,
I didn't know.
2018, and you know, just in Malibu there were 500 homes approximately that were just burned. I mean, it's a whole story. It's really tough. So now it would be so wonderful to have our home, and we have always dreamt of having a sabbatical, and there it was, and we
Uh,
don't have it. So we are staying with the in-laws, with all that entails, which is
okay.
wonderful for the record,
Right.
and um, and you know, I mean, talking of you are teaching your kids, and I have to do so much work for the Danas Opera, for the Prague Philharmonia, and it's like insane the amount of work. And with all the uncertainty, you have to recalibrate every single day. So
Absolutely.
you need to aim for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year forward,
Right.
and you need to do it because you need to present a plan to the people of your staff, to your board, and so on and so on. But you need to change those plans all the time, and
Right.
we have no other way to do it. Then there is this social media going on now, which we have to do to show our relevance. Some of it is actually fun. We're going to reach to different people. We're creating
Right.
new content, and that new content hopefully will survive and be there for years to come.
Absolutely.
But this is draining. This is insane. I mean, I thought finally I'm going to be able to read the books I want to read, to study the scores I want to study. None of that.
Mm.
None of
No,
that.
for sure. I'm trying to learn right now. I'm trying to learn two new parts, but even carving out like an hour for myself is difficult. And because the kids are always around, and I mean they're big enough that they can go on their own, but they still require attention.
Right.
And so like I feel like I'm getting less done right now than like if I just happen to have like I was home in February, and I had the month of February to learn Fidelio and the Beethoven Missa Solemnis and a new recital program. That month was blocked just for learning. And I got a lot of it done. And of course, I'm not doing any of those things,
Right.
you know. But but
Fidelio, let me jump on this. Fidelio
yeah,
is larger than probably any role you have sung so far. You define yourself as a lyric. You started almost like a Mozart tenor. Stop me if
right.
I'm wrong. And you were a lyric,
No, that's
not
correct.
leggero, but a lyric. And now, I mean, Fidelio, fluorescent, that's getting almost spinto or something like that.
For sure, it's a different style, but I mean a different. Well, it depends on how you cast it, and this is really what it came down to. So when the offer came, I said no, and but then they came back, and it was the idea had been was Petrenko's idea to mount it more like Beethoven might have mounted it. And so he didn't hire Christine Goerke or Nina Stemme or anybody like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Instead, he hired Marlis Pedersen. And when he told me that she was the Leonora, well, that's when I got interested. And then he told me that the Rocco was Matthew Rose.
Oh,
and so here are two Mozartian singers, you know, who.
But Matthew is quite a large voice somehow.
Yeah, but if you treat it the way Petrenko wanted to treat it, which was more like Idomeneo and less like Wagner, it would have. I think it would have worked great.
Yep.
We did manage to have some musical rehearsals. I did get to see what his ideas were. He was very interested in piano sections of music actually being piano. I mean, like he really wanted it. He wanted it more like Mozart and less like Wagner. And I think it would have worked great.
And the orchestra played like that too.
Oh, I didn't get to hear the orchestra, sadly. Our first orchestra rehearsal was about 10 days after they sent us home.
Okay.
So I didn't get to hear the orchestra.
But actually,
you
can tune the orchestra volume down quite easily, or if you have the right phrasing, there is space for the voice.
If you know it, then you know that it's largely just the woodwinds that are the trouble and the brass. You know, I mean, like the strings, that's not such a big deal. It's the woodwinds and brass where you got to be a little more careful. And especially since, I mean, the aria fit me very well, but I knew that would not be a problem. I was a little more worried about the trio and the quartet, and I guess a little bit the duet because it's lower. But I mean, I didn't have a worry about being heard. Plus, we're also talking about Baden-Baden, which is not a small theater. I mean, maybe 2,500, but it's not the Met or the.
No, and it's an easy acoustic somehow.
Yes.
It's a very good acoustic.
Yes.
So let's backtrack a little. So that's you are going toward even larger lyric roles. What was your first connection with music and singing?
Well, okay. If we really want to go back to the beginning, the first connection has to be like with my parents.
Right.
I mean, my family was a musical household, even though nobody did it as a job. My mom played the piano. Both my mom and dad were in barbershop, quartets, and choirs and things like that. We were always singing. My first official job was singing The Little Drummer Boy with my dad's barbershop quartet. I don't know if you know The Little Drummer Boy. I don't know if they call it in French. You know, this "Come, they told me, pa-dum-pa-bum-pum."
Yeah, le petit tambour
It's
major.
a Christmas song.
Right.
And
tambour major.
yeah, and my fee was a hot dog. Which
nice.
Was, you know, I was probably
I would
about
take that
9 or
fee
10.
today.
It's a great thing to get for a fee. And I immediately came off the stage. I'm like, Dad, where's my hot dog? You know? And so this is maybe I was 10 years old. I mean, I had a connection to music my whole life. It wasn't until I was a senior in college that I started to make a connection with opera. And I was lucky enough to have been heard by a guy named Alan Held. You got to know Alan.
I worked with Alan. Alan was in our. No, I did Hoffman with Alan Held, but we had Christian from home together, I think. Yes.
Oh yeah, and Christian, I saw his name pass by a little bit ago. If you're
Oh,
still out there, Christian,
hi,
hello.
Christian. Well,
Anyway,
he's probably out with a beer or something like that.
yeah,
Already.
exactly.
Yeah.
Lucky him. Anyway, so Alan was the first one. It was the summer before my senior year, and he's studying with a guy at Yale University, and this man's wife ran that program. And he said to me after the master class, he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, listen, I don't know if you ever thought about being a tenor, being a singer, but I mean, they're always looking for tenors, which is, we know that that's true." And so at the time, I was just an education major, so and which I really loved, and I actually wanted to be a teacher. It was funny, a lot of people say, well, if you can't make it as a singer, you can always teach, But for me, like the singing was more like the fallback thing. I really was interested in teaching, and I wanted to be a teacher, and I wanted to be like a high school choral conductor. That's what I was really interested in doing. And so I went to Yale, and I got my master's there, and decided that I would at least give it a shot. And I went straight from Yale to a young artist program in Chicago. And then I went straight from Chicago to New York. And I started at.
When did you know that, okay, I am a tenor. I'm actually really, I can bring something special to this. This is going to be my profession. Was this slowly evolving, or were you going the program?
Manuel, I still don't. I don't understand. It's hard. We're always hardest on ourselves as artists. Like I listen to myself and I think, oh my gosh, what am I thinking of? But I mean, I guess, when more important jobs started coming in, then I started to become aware that I had something to offer. It's more only in recent years when I've started doing more master classes and a little bit, not really teaching yet, but that may be coming out. Yeah, exactly. That when I realized that I had things to say to people, then I thought, all right, I've learned some stuff over these years. I'm talking to them about the things that I do, the practices I put in place to be as good an artist, to be as good a singer, to be as good a language man, to be as good a drama, an actor. I think of all the work I've done to make all that stuff happen, and I think, okay, you know what? I do have something to offer. And the other thing, of course, is when you work in the best houses most of the time, over the course of your career, and I spend a lot of my time in places like Munich and London and New York and Chicago and San Francisco, and other places like this, when you're working in these places, well, then you start to understand that whatever it is that you had to offer was good enough for the A-level houses in the world, but I still am of the opinion that, like, I barely understand how I'm making it, because I'm unwilling to give myself even the tiniest bit of credit for the work that I do.
Well, let me tell you, you are really an extraordinary tenor. And it's not only the vocal technique, it's not only the musicianship, it's not only the way you are dramatically, it's the way you put all of this together.
But look at yourself, though, for a second, Emmanuel. So we can say this to each other because we work together. We know that our relationship has borne fruit on the stage. I love you for saying that. But when you get somebody like you who makes it possible to be creative and makes it possible to make music and to make art, it's not always like that. And we don't always have the same relationship. I'm guarantee, like if I said to you, all right, what was your worst experience with any singer? Like you could, it wouldn't be hard for you to come up with a couple right away.
We spoke about this with some of your colleagues, and actually there would be only maybe one name I would give you that would say, no, I don't want to work with that person anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know what this is, actually. But I have worked with the most difficult divas, really people who are very, very, very difficult, who fire conductors,
Right.
And I never had any problem with those. Now, there are people I love to work with. You don't have to talk too much, or if you want to talk, then you can talk for hours. And there is this miraculous, like, mind connection in performance where I am helping you or you are giving me something and it just goes like that. And we just don't even talk about it. It just happens. But
right.
it's singers who are difficult with conductors, and then I would be interested to see the other way around, are usually singers who are afraid for their own voices.
Oh, yeah.
And they say, this idiot is going to be too fast, is going to be too slow. So once you have established that with that singer, even if he doesn't know you, even if he has a bad, so I had this, usually first rehearsals, they test you, singers can happen. You know, I had this with a very, very famous bass who was very, very, very nervous. And he would,
Right.
nine, that's a nine, so fine.
Yeah.
Let it be, let it be. Oh yes, okay, I can do faster, I can do slower, I can breathe there. No, I want to breathe here. Okay, we breathe here. And after a while, he didn't have to tell me where to breathe or to go faster or slower, because I am playing the instrument.
Right.
Like you are playing the instrument. So
right.
Once you establish, okay, we're in this together with your voice that has problems, then
right.
we are going to be okay. So I would say, to really, now there are people, it's much easier, it's more fun, and so on and so on and so on, but it's very rare that if you give, like you are a very generous singer, and I hope I'm a generous enough conductor.
You are.
It works. It
Yes.
works. So what do you do when you have a conductor that doesn't get what you need?
Oh, you figure out what it is that you have to have. Make sure you get that. If it's only one or two things, then fine. Otherwise, you figure out how to work around it. And
Right.
sometimes, you know what? It's not. I would never even argue that my musical idea is the be all end all. You know, and I'm sure, you know, like there are other people who subscribe to that same view. You know, I mean, I know that there's different ideas about different pieces. Some people are faster, some people are slower, some people like a lot of rubato, some people like very little, whatever, all those things. I usually just try and figure out a way to be, okay, so the real trick is this. Number one, they have to understand that you think they are brilliant. When they understand, and this doesn't just apply to your brethren and my brethren, but also the director, okay?
Right.
If you're having a problem with someone, first of all, make sure that you understand that they're brilliant and probably smarter than you are. Once they know that you think they're brilliant, then they think that they can be generous, you see. So then Maestro, if it's okay, I've got to have a breath here. I would like very much to be able to finish this phrase all in one. And if I can't get the breath here, then I can't do it. Oh, that's great. Yes, perfect. So once they understand that you think of them as somebody who can teach, somebody who's brilliant, someone who is imparting wisdom, then they give it to you willingly. You know,
it's so true.
That's really, and that works with directors, that works with singers, that works with conductors. And I tell you, the best thing about that is
that doesn't work with your spouse, though.
Oh, no. No, but you know what I was going to say is the best thing about that is, especially when it comes to your colleagues, it means that you've approached them in a really lovely way somehow. And it means that they're likely to be more friendly to you also.
But actually, most of the time, our colleagues, they are brilliant and they have something to bring.
No doubt.
And the different approach, I always say when I give a master class or if I'm working with a singer, it usually you have billions of things to say if they are good. It's only the one who are really, really not good, then you have nothing to say. You don't
know it's true.
So let me switch to something else. In Manon, you have this En voyant les yeux, je vois là-bas.
Yeah.
And you are doing this incredible voix mixte, mezza di voce. That is stunning. And we did it in Covent Garden.
Yes.
Which is a very dry theater. Not so, I mean, I was just there doing, see my brain now, I don't remember what I was doing. I was doing Bohème.
You were just there anyway.
And I went to a performance of Othello with Gregory Kunder and Hermonella Yao. They were just out of this world. But this is the first time I was in the house listening. I've done like 6 productions there, but listening to it's so unbelievably dry. And your voice in En fermant les yeux, in that very dry acoustic, was just going through amazingly. And it was kind of working with the the French language elasticity that was incredible. But technically, what do you do?
Well,
I
okay.
have to pay you a
That's
lot to hear that secret, maybe.
no. Listen, here's what I try to think about when it comes to like voix mix things, and this applies also to pêcheur de perles. I mean, like when you get, and even frankly, I use it. I use it in bel canto stuff too. The thing of it is, the breathing has to remain the same. The It's the way you focus the vowel that makes it different, I think. And for me, when I'm thinking of voix mixte, I'm thinking of the vowel oo.
Right.
So I run everything with this thought, as you could say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, en
Ooh.
fermant
So
les
the ooh
yeux.
makes the voice go really up there.
It's higher and it's a smaller focus, so that the voice still carries. And even just now when we were doing I was doing Macbeth here in New York in the fall, and there's that big ensemble, there's a big ensemble in the first act which is all a cappella, and I was basically marking, and they were telling me like it's still a little too loud. Now
Oh
my
wow.
tessitura is a little higher, but I mean I was hardly singing at all. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, but I had been doing that exact thing. I'd just been thinking about ooh and singing the words, but just thinking about that vowel, trying
Mm-hmm.
to send it through that spot so that I knew my sound would be going out. And
Mm-hmm.
that's how I think of it. It's a brilliant focusing vowel. It's a great vowel for just a penetrating kind of sound. And you don't. I'm not saying that you trying to sing je vois là-bas. I mean,
Luba, Lubu. Yeah.
it's yeah, exactly. It's yeah, really. It's more just a thought to make
Right.
sure that the voice is speaking in the exact same spot,
Right.
and so loud or soft, because you also have moments like fuyez, fuyez. I mean, like this is much more dramatic, and there's other big
And
moments.
can you do sfumature? Can you go crescendo to it, or there is a gap, there is a bridge, there's a frontier between the
No,
voix
for
mixte and
sure.
the real voice, the full petto?
No, you can, or I can. At least I practice like that, though.
Right.
I mean, I practice working on things like that. I practice where, boy, especially with like the opening of Fidelio, the very first thing he says, God, it's on a high G, and it really has to be. It should be quiet at the start. I mean, he's giving you a tiny, either piano or pianissimo, and I forget what's there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, then you have to turn it into the cri de coeur that it is.
Right.
And so yeah, so what I did when I was working on that, I did it so that, and in fact Petrenko ended up asking for this. Yeah, I had a crescendo and a decrescendo, um
Wow.
and so like that was what he wanted, and yeah, so I mean, like I'd already been practicing like that anyway,
Right.
to make
Was it
sure
was it in concert, that Fidelio that you were supposed to do, or was it in a?
no, there were 3 stage performances and 2 concert performances.
Do you like to do concert performances of operas?
uh I've only had a couple of experiences over my life, and I
Mm.
can't say I really know what it's like. I mean, I did Falstaff in concert. I did Otello in concert, but as
But you've
Cassio. So
done
that's a bit.
Beethoven 9 or Missa
Yes.
Solemnis. Do you enjoy doing that?
Oh, I mean, I love singing. I love singing that music. I find it's a little harder because with the orchestra standing right next to you, you feel like you need to make more sound. When in
Mm.
fact the same sound you're making is just the sound that you need. I mean, you
Right.
must have the same thing though. Do you ever, when you're doing concerts like this, do you talk with your singers about this stuff,
Yeah.
or let me ask you this: where do you like to have them? Do you want them behind you or next to you or
Okay.
up closer?
So this is interesting because with singers that are like very seasoned singers, one of the problems that can happen is that they are so used to anticipate on the gesture because of the distance, they
Hmm.
get ahead of you, or they
Yes.
overreact to your gesture. So
Right.
I sometimes I tell them, just think of me as a camera that's a monitor that's further away.
Right.
Don't think so. But I like to feel the breathing. And if they are behind the orchestra, you lose some kind of a connection. the orchestra becomes a barrier, and
Right.
when they are in the pit, they are not. You just the first thing you see is the singer somehow because
Right.
you go above the orchestra. So I like to have the singers usually on my side,
Yeah,
and
I got you. I agree.
and then I can go back a little if I need to catch your eye, because even if we are at the same level, even the singers a little in front of me, when needed we can have a connection. And most of the time we are together, not looking at each other. It's just we're
Mm,
together, in the line together, and we're just
yes.
thinking, okay, that's where it's happening. The communication is like that. um,
Right.
but most of the time I tell, a lot of conductors, they are working with the piano, and they say, please, pianissimo here. Oh, no, 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 it's too loud, it's too loud. Then you arrive in the orchestra. Hey, I can't hear you.
Yeah, exactly. Had that experience, no doubt.
Yeah.
I
So,
love it that they're trying to make music, but in a piano, in a little room, or even in a hall with the piano, everything's different than it is with the orchestra. No question.
absolutely. And,
Yeah.
and, and also, you need to have the technique as a conductor to make the orchestra play piano,
Right. Yeah, for
or
sure.
play softer. When it's a
Right.
fortissimo, but it's crazy, and there is, the whole trombones are, and the staging is such that you are at the end. Well, you still need to have the orchestra give the power, the energy, the muscle of a fortissimo, but the volume is equal to a mezzo forte, because the guy in the back is never going to be heard otherwise.
All right.
And
So how do you
it,
get them to trust you on stuff like that?
Right, but this takes a lot of time. And then if it's the first stage orchestra, you have the director in the house, you have your assistants and the pianists, and it's their revenge because they finally can give you notes, and they say, "Oh my God, it's too loud! It's too loud." Just a sec.
Absolutely.
The, the orchestra is reading this with the singer for the first time. It will settle. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And then
Right.
another thing that people don't talk about, but if you have an audience, the acoustical balance is very different. And so what you have to understand is you have to know the house, and you have to know that if you barely hear the singers, that means they're very well heard in the back, or they are not heard at all. So that's something you learn with time when you work in a certain opera house.
Yeah.
um, but I must say I love to work with singers in a concert setting, because all of a sudden this creates kind of connections that are very different. And I'm a man of theater. I love the theater. I love the drama, and
Mm.
and I love to work with stage directors
Hmm.
who love music. But sometimes performances, semi-stage or just in concert, if it's the right piece and the right colleagues, you can go to dramatic magic like you would never go with a staging.
Oh yeah. Well, true, but there's also stuff that you have to contend with in an opera, like a set and a costume and props and people moving around. And I mean, there's things like, that on one hand it helps a little bit, and because if you're a singer and you're a little bit nervous and you have something to think about, but it also detracts because you might not be thinking the same way about making music. If it's
Yeah.
just a concert performance, and like I've had Damnation de Faust in concert and stage both.
Mhm.
And I have to
I find
say,
Damnation for me, it's a concert piece. I
oh yeah,
mean,
I've loved it both ways, and I've been in well, no, let's not say terrible, one terrible production and one really interesting production,
okay,
but
go
I
to Opera
enjoyed it in
Base, guys.
concert
Go
also.
to Opera Base, guys. You will know which one he's talking about.
It wouldn't be that hard to figure out, actually.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
But I mean, my feeling is though that I think it works both ways as long as it's intelligently done. But I agree, it's great in concert. It's unbelievably effective music, and it really qualifies as like my second most favorite thing to sing. I
Right,
mean, I
right.
love it very dearly.
Absolutely, for me too. And I have to. I've not heard your Invocation à la Nature. I actually like the invocation to be really large and and
Hmm.
and quite slow. That's where you really need to. When you cast, you have to cast it with a person that can do that. If he
Yeah,
can't, then you have to go fast. That would be one of the only aria where I would say, well, faster than this, it becomes another piece.
yeah,
Because
absolutely.
la nature, nature is bigger than us.
Right.
So that notion of, the like the Greek physis, it's something that's so larger than we are, and we are lost into it. And you need
Oh
to be
yeah.
lost into it and
But think
stretch,
of the way
stretch,
it's
stretch,
written
stretch,
too.
stretch.
Yeah, and the way it's written, it's very much like that.
Yeah.
It's not
And if you look at the double basses, all of a sudden they have to play, 64 notes in one half beat. And
right.
if you are too fast, they cannot play this. So,
It's impossible.
and Berlioz has one of those little nasty notes that he write to conductors. He write, "You have to subdivide here. Whatever
Oh,
you
it's
think,
written in the
you
score?
have to subdivide." It's like in Romeo and Juliet. At one point, he writes for one of the scenes, um, public today has no imagination, therefore imaginative music has no public. But anyway, this piece is so difficult to perform that very few orchestra can do it. So you should probably skip it.
That's in the score?
That's in the score. That's in the score. And I had to years ago, I had to step in with the Boston Symphony. Seiji Ozawa was sick, and they had told me, can you fly? And tomorrow we have Romeo and Juliet. Have you done Romeo and Juliet? Oh, of course I've done Romeo and Juliet. I've never done Romeo and Juliet. I got the score last minute, and here it is, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm coffee, and I finally arrive at that scene, and I read the footnote of Berlioz, and I say, oh shoot! I said I was at the end, and I look at the cuts, from Boston. No, we were doing that piece.
Oh.
So, I had then to, I had no, I look at my passport. I was in Paris and was in Boston. I look at my passport, and all of a sudden I realize my passport has expired.
Oh, no.
That was the afternoon before. So I called a friend and I said, can you get me an appointment to be the first in line to go and get a passport? And this was the time of the Concorde. I had a Concorde at 11 in the morning. And I was home.
Whoa.
And all of a sudden at, something like 10 p.m. when I'm working on that score, and that score is bloody difficult. I thought it was easy. No, difficult. And I realized, well, I'm getting a new passport, but for a passport, you need a photo. So I said, wait, I need a photo for tomorrow morning. I won't have time to get a photo tomorrow morning. In the time you're in the Paris metro, this photomaton, where you could take a picture. And the metro would close at midnight or 1 a.m. So for 10 years, I had this passport with a photo of me taken in photomaton with this guy over-caffeinated, super nervous because of the footnotes of Berlioz,
But how much fun did you have when you were doing it? Come on.
What?
How much fun did you have? You must have had fun.
It was with Jose Van Damme.
Yeah,
that
I did it with
him
too,
fun.
actually, yeah.
You don't, it's one of those things, you don't have time to be nervous. You don't have time. It just happens. I had fun, but I had more fun the second time I did it.
Of course.
I really, this one I pushed to the very limit. But yes, of course I.
Was your debut? That was your debut?
That was my debut. Yes, that was my debut. Well, you have to do jump in. What's the fastest you had to learn the score? Did you do jump-ins crazy like that?
No. I've been really careful my whole life about things like that. The closest I came to something like that was Maria Stuarda at the Met a few years ago, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago now. I wasn't originally scheduled to do those Maria Stuarda performances. I had something else there that season. I forget what it was. And whoever was going to sing it canceled. I was singing Werther in Chicago. And they called to see if I could. And so I arrived about 10 days late in the rehearsals, but I still had about 3.5, 4 weeks of rehearsal. So I thought it would be enough time. Boy, and I'll tell you what, Emmanuel, we were about 2 weeks from the opening. And I remember coming home from a rehearsal and just not appreciated how difficult that score was. And I'm sitting in front of the car, in front of my house in the car, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, what am I going to do? Either I'm going to cancel or I'm just going to do it.
Right.
And I just needed to tell myself, all right, it's funny because that part tired me. Like I could sing Hoffman twice and be
Right.
less tired than I was tired at the end of that piece, which sat very poorly for my voice. I could do it, but it was not comfortable for me. It didn't sit well for me. And more than that, Werther was much lower, and I just couldn't get my voice up into the position that it needed to be in for this piece. So I really just had to decide for myself, all right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to sing it every day. I'm going to sing out every day and try and get myself into a position to make it happen. And I was able to do that. But it's funny because now we can
Well, how
talk a
did
little
it
bit
go?
about
How did it go in the end?
it was fine. It was hard, but it was fine. And I mean,
Right.
you know, the work of the piece, frankly, is all in the front half. That aria, it's a disaster of an aria for me anyway. Nobody understands how hard it is, and you still got to pump it out. And then there's those two big duets. So I
Right.
mean,
So
there's
Sharon Mills told me once, when you replace someone last minute, when you are asked to do a favor,
mm,
you think people are going to appreciate that and eventually repay you, but in
mm,
fact, what's going to happen is they're going to judge you on that performance. So
absolutely.
don't don't hesitate to say no
Oh,
if you're
and
not especially in that time I could not say no to the Boston Symphony and Seiji Ozawa,
right.
and it was difficult. Today I am more, I get these cancellation things and I say no, thank you, and saying no is very powerful in our career. you know
No, absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
something that.
Plus, it lends it. I mean, come on. You got to be saner because of it. There's a time when you're young, perhaps, when that stuff is more important.
Yes.
You're trying to get as many jobs as you can. You're
Yeah.
trying to do as much as you can.
Open
And
doors.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I haven't arrived at my ripe old age, and my age starts with a 5 now. I mean, like my I couldn't do that stuff, and I'll never forget. There's an artistic administrator who said to me, they'd asked me to do something, and in the end I said I could have managed it somehow, but it would have been a pain, and I would have had to go back and forth between two cities to make it happen, and he said, listen, I understand, and thank you for not turning yourself into a pretzel to make this happen, you know, which
I know
was
that
lovely.
expression. I know who is using it.
Oh, then you know who it is.
Yes, I did.
So I mean, I really have tried hard to just be respectful for the company I'm working with,
Right.
and do as much for them as I can. And if I happen to be free, I mean, like I had 4 weeks of rehearsal with that Maria Stuarda. I thought it was enough time to make it go. And in retrospect, I would have needed 2 or 3 weeks before the rehearsal process. We're talking about Don Pasquale, for example, which we should talk about a little. I mean, like that's another one of those pieces that before I did these performances, I'd given up the part because it was just not comfortable for me. I could do it, but I didn't enjoy it.
Right.
I didn't have fun doing it, and it's rare that most of the time it's not fun to be the straight guy either. Everybody else gets all the comedy moments. I mean, Ernesto is just somebody who gets laughed at.
Right.
He's not in on the joke until the end of the
Right.
second act.
Right. So talking of rehearsal period or just jumping in and so on, you have worked in Germany. How much have you worked in Germany? How do you
Quite a
feel about
lot.
those 2 months of rehearsal sometimes?
Well, so I mean, I was just in that situation. I mean, except our performances didn't come to,
Yeah.
we lost them. But in Baden-Baden, we had about a 6.5 week rehearsal period. And of course, I was singing Florestan, so I got to become just a little bit later because he doesn't appear in the first
Sure.
act. But yeah, you know what? I don't like it. It's too long to be. It's in my marriage, and we've been married for 24 years. The number of times we've been apart more than 6 weeks was one time, and like that was the limit we set for ourselves, and we've only crossed it once, and I would have had to cross it again this time. If I mean, I should still be there. I should not be here at home. I
Right.
should be there. So I don't like the 6 or 7 weeks rehearsal. I don't. I mean, I think it's too much for reinventing the wheel.
Right.
An opera that's 200 years old. I mean, how many new things can we say about it? What we have
Right.
to be able to say is something interesting and something beautiful, you know. But
Well,
you
I mean,
know,
the logic in the German system is sometimes that you really collaboratively work with the director and nothing is set and it's rehearsed almost like a play would be rehearsed. We try this, we try that, we go the
hmm
other way. And in
hmm
itself, it's very interesting. Sometimes it makes people even slower in their production or
yeah,
they're
for
not
sure,
ready to do it. And
yeah.
then the star is not there and you rehearse with someone else. And so the whole Stimmung and the whole idea is
We get
totally
that much more often, for sure.
right,
You
right.
know, where some
So
people are there, some people
talking
aren't.
talking of motivation, so a larger, broader question. What drives you today to music? What makes you motivated when you go on stage? Especially if it's a part you know very well and that is not necessarily so challenging if there is such a thing vocally. How do you
Right. Well,
what is it you are going for?
okay. So, I mean, there's a few different things. Obviously, during the year, there's bound to be one or two jobs that are purely financially based. You know, I mean, if it's a good theater and a good fee with a less than interesting production or a less than interesting cast or however you want to say it, sometimes you just take a job because I have three kids who are about to go to college. And
Right.
by God, I've got, if, if I have less than like whatever college, I mean, my friends who have college age kids are telling me their kids are paying $50,000 a year, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, where am I going to find this money?
Come
So
on, it's one or
occasionally,
two arias. That's
yeah,
it.
exactly. Most of the time, though, for me, um, I try to make sure that whatever I'm doing, the casts are interesting. Which, thankfully, if you're working in these kind of houses, generally the casts are interesting,
They are.
and hopefully the conductor is a good conductor. Hopefully the orchestra and chorus is a chorus and orchestra that you can respect, and hopefully you'll get a production that you like.
Well, now,
So
all of these together, that's very rare.
that's very, and I can't, I bet you the number of those things that
Uh,
came together
I
and
can
all
tell you
like
a
that,
few
maybe
that
on one hand,
yeah,
you
but
know.
we have those, we have those,
Absolutely. They
I
keep
mean,
you coming back too, don't they? I mean, they
right.
keep you coming back. When you're looking for motivation for a financial job, for example, you might be thinking of another experience that you had that was just amazing, and that's what pulls you through, you
Right,
know.
right.
Um,
So,
but
you know
I
what?
am
I
still,
used to say no to Carmen, for instance. No, please, not another Carmen.
yeah.
And it comes back because, of course, this is you need a French guy for Carmen and so on and so on.
Oh, I hope
And
I get that with you, Emmanuel.
yeah, let's do it. And
Yes.
every time I do it, I love it. I love
Yeah.
every single rehearsal of it, and I find
Yep.
something new because my brain is like this compared to Bizet, and so I really love it. Another
Yeah.
broad question, which is somehow connected, or the other part of this, you would not be a tenor. You said you wanted to be a teacher first, but you wouldn't be a tenor. What would you be? An airline pilot, a doctor, a politician?
Yeah. Um. Well. Well. Yeah. I mean, I still think that I would have ended up to be a high school choral conductor. I believe.
Aha.
I mean, like, I enjoyed that work. I liked it. I liked working with kids. I liked getting them to make music. I liked the way they looked when they were making music and when they discovered something, and I'm sure that's what I would be doing. But it's funny because here we are in this time that we're in right now, and I mean, our future is unbelievably uncertain. It's hard to imagine that we'll be working this summer. I sort of don't think so. But I mean, like, so what about next season? Well, by God, I certainly hope we are working next season. But in the darkest night, you know, I mean, like, I think to myself, wow, I wonder if it's going to be possible we can put 2,500 people in the same place, or at the Met, what could we get 4,000 people at the same place? I mean, like, there things have to be worked out. So I worry about that. But just being able to see the joy on the kids' faces when they're singing and they're making a noise that makes them laugh or makes them cry, makes them happy. I mean, that stuff was important to me when I was a student teacher. And I got to conduct a couple songs on the big choir concert, and I loved it. I mean, I just loved it. And I mean, there's a little part of
My
me that's
strong
sad I didn't
yeah,
get to do it. Hmm?
right, right. My strongest musical moment today, they still connect to me as a kid in a boys' choir. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of amazing joy you have of discovering the truth of the word and a certain spirituality which is fun at the same time, that excitement to creation, and at the same time the whole body is vibrating and your whole soul is with
Yes.
it. That's what we are going for. And kids get this, I think, intuitively at the same level we get, even better, because they don't overthink it, and they are doing okay with it. Um,
Right.
uh, so let's talk a little about Pasquale.
Okay.
So there is a med broadcast now of Pasquale in a few minutes.
Yep.
Um, you were singing Ernesto. You had sung Ernesto a lot, correct?
Before that, yeah, I'd done it probably 7 times, I would guess, maybe before that. I mean, that was early in my career. I mean, this was 2000. What year was this? 2000. Oh, it was 2010. That's right, because my son was born on opening night. He was born at like, I don't know. We were up most of the night. He was born at like 6 o'clock in the morning on opening night.
Right. And what is the difficulty of the role for you?
Oh, the cabalette of the aria.
Right.
That is the thing that said, I just don't need to sing this anymore. I don't have to do it anymore. And even when I was younger, my voice was higher and lighter. It was hard for me. It just never sat comfortably for me. And at the end, I was always just hanging on. Now, what was interesting about this when I got to do it with Jimmy and we did this production, um, even though my voice was lower and a little heavier, um, I had changed the way I thought about it a little bit, and I realized that it was in some ways a little easier for me, um, because I had abandoned I knew that I'd done it. I knew I would be able to do it. I knew with somebody like James Levine conducting that he would help me through it. I knew that everything was going to be all right, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was a little calmer about it. But I can frankly say that, I mean, like, I still, I mean, like, even when I'm coaching other tenors, like, I try hard not to tell them how I really feel,
Right.
because I mean, I always found it difficult, and
Right.
I just never felt like it never felt like una furtiva lagrima to me. It never
Right.
felt La Fleur. It never felt like any of
Well,
these things
La
that I
Fleur is
sing.
not easy.
No, it's not, but it's written for me.
Right.
I'm aware that it's written for me. Everything that he asks are things that I like to do.
Right.
And
Correct.
so, like a quiet B flat at the end. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Little crescendo on it, maybe
And,
just a
and he
small
does
one.
write it. And there are a few, for La Fleur, there are a few tenors that, they say, oh, you really want me to do it? I said, well, I mean, let's make it with your voice too,
Yeah,
because,
exactly. Well, yeah, of course. That's what we
yeah,
have to do.
and it
Yeah.
can be very, very impressive. It's large. So the rest of the cast of this Don Pasquale,
Hey,
Marius Christian, Anani Trepko.
and we have to say a special shout out for John Del Carlo, who is gone now from our world. But boy, he was one of my favorite colleagues, one of the nicest, most gentlest, most
Mm-hmm.
gentlemanly, beautiful men you could ever have met. I was incredibly privileged to sing with him on a lot of occasions, and not just in New York. I was lucky to sing with him in a couple other places too. He was one of my favorite colleagues, and he was a beautiful human, Don Pasquale.
Mm-hmm.
A very sorry, just want to pour some love out on John, because he was a special man and a great singer, and he is sorely missed. I'm very sorry
Yeah.
that we don't have him
Well,
anymore.
this is the beauty of this streaming and the broadcast, is that you can reconnect with colleagues and friends, and
Yeah.
have these conversations somehow with them. How do you feel listening to yourself?
Oh God, you don't want that answer, Manuel. Come on, it can't be much
Well, I feel
different.
I always hate it. I
Yeah.
always hate
Okay.
it.
I was
And
gonna
the
say
other
it can't
day,
be much
I
different
was
for you.
going to my house, and the house is being rebuilt, and the contractor was playing a concerto I just recorded with Andrew von Oyen of Saint-Saëns, And I said, oh my God, this is really good. Oh, they are doing great job here. Oh, there is a rubato here. I wish I could do this. It was our recording.
Oh,
So
I love it.
listening to it, not knowing it was me, I liked it 10,000 times more.
I love it. So I have figured out how to let myself hear the things that I think I do well, because I listen to myself a lot. Especially if I'm on the road, if my wife is not here and my voice teacher is not there,
You
if
to
nobody
check on
who
yourself.
well, I mean, nobody who I trust is listening to me, then how am I going to know if I'm a little bit out of tune, or I'm a little ahead, or a little behind? I mean, like, generally, people don't tell you about this stuff. And they're afraid to, I'm an artist who's been around a long time, and they're afraid to approach, like they might offend, you know? So, so I record myself a lot, and I listen to myself, and I figured out how to give myself the occasional props to say, okay, that wasn't awful, but I'm still concentrating on all the stuff I hate. And,
Right.
And it's funny, even after all these years, I still hate most of the same things about my voice that I hated.
Can you give us just a hint of what you hate?
No way, I'm not talking to you about that. No way. Absolutely not. I would never tell you that, because I don't want you guys listening for it either. If you love my voice, I love you for loving me, and thank you.
Well, Matthew, everybody loves your voice and everybody loves the artist. And this was a lot of fun talking to you. It's about time we finish this. And people, you can go now to the Met broadcast, the Met live broadcast. I think they've made those available actually to a larger public. This is filmed in an extraordinary way. Amazing orchestra, fantastic conducting. We have to say that.
Yep.
And I think you are on for a treat. I have never done Pasquale, because the only Donizetti I want to do is Lucia. Maybe
it's so
not
great.
But Pasquale is not totally a conductor piece, but I think in this case, Levine is making a good case for it as a conductor piece too.
It was really fun.
And you are stunning in it. I can't wait. Oh, there is a role you said you wanted to do. I have to remember that. Just
to do with you, to do Carmen, if you would like.
Let's do it. Let's find
I would love it.
Okay, promise.
Big hugs and big love to you, Manuel.
Lots of to you. Thank you for the time, and we should do this again soon. Bye-bye.
All right,
Take care.
Take care. Bye.